Now, moving on, the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, has been accused of betraying London taxpayers after new figures showed that more than 1,000 City Hall employees are on salaries in excess of £100,000. His Conservative mayoral rival, Susan Hall, has accused Khan of creating one big gravy train with hundreds of staff receiving salaries higher than the top 4% of UK earners, including many of those responsible for the controversial ULEZ expansion. Joining me now is Conservative London Assembly member Andrew Boff. Good afternoon to you. Andrew, we're used to seeing these figures, these six-figure salary figures. Every now and again there's a story that somebody uncovers in local government, you know, whether it's a county council in the northeast, a county council in the southeast. What it appears, though, is that this is being done with booster rockets on in City Hall. Over 1,000 people earning a six-figure salary. I don't think that replicates what's happening in Whitehall.
I mean, it's astonishing, isn't it? And I think Londoners might be a little forgiven when they get their council tax in and they see that since he's been in, Sadiq Khan's call on them has increased by 70%. 70% increase since 2016. They might be a bit forgiving for that if they could see that things were improving. But I don't think they do see that. They see a situation where actually services are declining. So it's going to be a real shock to Londoners, I think.
I would have thought so. My maths might be a bit skew-if here, but I think I've got this about right, Andrew. So if you've got 1,000 people saying, it's more than that, but 1,000 people earning over 100,000 quid is about £100 million. Is that right?
Yeah, your maths is better than mine. All I would say is that, you know, of those staff, you've got about 800 staff at TfL now on over £100,000. And yet the strikes have increased on the underground. We pay over 100,000, 117,000 for a night czar, and London's nightlife is just becoming a bit more boring. And in his policing department, he's increased the number of staff, and I'm saying staff, not police officers, being paid over 100K from 80 to 301, and knife crime is rocketing. Yeah. Now, Londoners are going to ask themselves, why am I paying this? What am I paying money for? And it looks like they're just paying to increase the number of people in Khan's Glee Club.
I mean, if you were running a business this way and you'd employed 300 civilian staff to tackle the capital's crime, only to discover that it was going up and stabbings and also shoplifting and all sorts of other crimes are through the roof, you would, I mean, apart from the fact you would fire the 300, but somebody would have a quiet word with you out the back, would they not, and say, look, whatever you're doing, mate, this ain't working.
Well, it isn't working. It appears as though the more he spends on an issue to solve the problem, the bigger the problem becomes. Yeah. It's because he's got the whole wrong approach. But the good thing, the good news is that Londoners are going to have a chance to change that on May the 2nd and vote for Susan Hall because she's a no-nonsense politician. She's going to scrap ULEZ on day one, and she's going to cut the number of staff at City Hall and keep costs down. And that's really what Londoners want from their mayor, just keep the costs down.
But are they really going to get, I mean, she's going to scrap the ULEZ extension, as I understand, Andrew, not actually ULEZ, so yeah, that would remain.
You're quite right, yeah.
So she's still fascinated by ULEZ as much as Mr. Khan?
Well, only fascinated insofar as how is it you can spend so much money on something and achieve virtually nothing from it? Because, as we all know, the expansion of the ULEZ has extraordinarily little effect on the air quality in outer London. It would have been so much better if he'd spent the resources he has on hotspots of air pollution in London, which is what Susan Hall will be doing.